waiting in anticipation. You don't want to hear from me. And I was told by Roz that I have to tell anybody from our church who's here to remember to pick up your salad bowls and stuff on your way home. So with that, I'll give the program to Rachel. Thank you.
You're not going to be standing on that side, that's for sure. That's a little too bright right now. Yes, and I'm wondering, how long is it going to be bright? Probably not that long. I'll just stay here instead of moving this agenda. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Lynn, for inviting me. Thank you for all the people who sponsored that wonderful dinner, and thank you all for coming, because it's really a pleasure to be able to talk about one of the things that I really love the most. So, just a wee little bit about me. I am a graduate from Elderly High School, went away to the University of Minnesota, thought I was going to be a music major, came to my senses and got a business and speech communications degree, which I think served me well, but I've always been an avocation in music. And as I go through my story, I'm going to tell you how I got involved with the therapeutic music part of things. So tonight what we're going to cover is kind of like an overview of what is therapeutic music, it's some of the historic roots, benefits, maybe some of my personal stories, which I love to share, that are inspirational. Who can benefit from therapeutic music, and what does a music session actually accomplish? And it's important that I talk, and I'll just do it right now, the difference between therapeutic music and music therapy. I'm a therapeutic musician, not a music therapist. A music therapist has a lot more education, and they are qualified to do many different sorts of things than what I'm qualified to do. I will say there are places where the things that we do intersect, largely like playing at the bedside, comfort care, that sort of thing. And then I'm going to finish up with a little bit of how can we all use music for health and wellness in our everyday lives, because I think that's an important thing. So, what have I told you? Music can reduce your anxiety and depression, that vibrations can heal or reduce pain and spasm, that music can lower blood pressure, deepen respiration, and increase oxygenation, and that humming can help with overall brain health and focus. Would you believe me? Well, good, I heard some yeses, and then if not now, maybe hopefully by the end of this session, you will say, yeah, I think she's got something there. So, sometimes we think of unconventional things like maybe acupuncture or Reiki or therapeutic music, and we say, all that new age stuff. But in actuality, it is the ancients. It is the ancient stuff, and it was some of the first modalities that were used for healing. This is a depiction, well, it's actually a picture kind of fuzzy, of the Ebers Papyrus, which is a preserved medical document from ancient Egypt, dating back to 1550 BC. And within that text, there's prescriptions for music. You know, for this ailment, use this music. And so way back then, that's the sort of treatments they were prescribing. Lynn already mentioned David, the shepherd and king, one of the most well-known stories of the harp and healing. And certainly one that I connected to right away when I started down this path. Whenever Saul was having his fits of whatever they were, was it depression or a manic episode? We don't know really, but the harp playing soothed him, and it you know, has been memorable ever since, obviously depicted in some of old classical art. Now, another one of the well-known stories, at least in the harp world, that I'd like to share is about Orpheus, who comes to us from Greek mythology. Orpheus was known as the father of songs, and he was a supreme musician. Son of the muse Calliope and the god Apollo. When he played his harp, which was fashioned out of a tortoise shell, it was said that animals would obey, the trees would bow down, and even the stones would respond. The picture on the left here kind of depicts the throngs gathering around to hear his music. And then the tragic story of Orpheus and Eurydice, where shortly after they're married, she's bitten by an asp and dies. And he's so heartbroken that he goes down into hell to bring her back. And he's given permission to bring her back, as long as he does not turn around and see if she's following. But sadly, he does. And so she goes back to Hades and stays there. So it was definitely a tragic story. And then mythology sometimes seems rather fantastical to us, but it is a means of passing down cultural heritage, values, wisdom perhaps from another generation. And myths often combine some historical facts and symbolic representations along with a few imaginative elements to give insight into the cultures of the time from which they originate. So I think even though we can say, well, that's just a made-up story, well, no, there's something in it that gives it some validity. Another one of the ancients, Pythagoras, was a mathematician and musician. He taught that the universe was bounded by number, proportion, and sacred geometry, and that music is a universal language based on mathematical intervals. The healing implication is that we can create inner balance and harmony in our lives by aligning ourselves to the universal harmonies, the harmonies of the spheres. Balance and coherence are terms that I'm currently working with. I'm pursuing a further certification in my therapeutic work. Imagine that all the cells in your body, well, they all are vibrating. Everything vibrates. But what if, that everything's just a little bit off. They're not at the same frequency, and it creates chaos within our bodies. The concept is to find a frequency that the body responds to, and then to help bring the vibrations into resonance with one another and then throughout the body. Now, the roots of this holistic approach, of course, were ancient, and then through the medieval times, they were practiced regularly. This is a depiction of the Benedictine Abbey at Cluny, which was an early medieval example of holistic healthcare. This particular abbey was located on the crossroads of two major pilgrimages. And so many people arrived there that were in need, sick and dying. The vision of William of Aquitaine was that these people should be treated as if they were Christ in person. And I just love that saying. Treat them as if they were Christ in person. Care included music, special foods, aromatherapy, and even beds that were built over a babbling brook so that the healing and calming sounds of the water would comfort people. Another one of the Middle Ages healers was Hildegard von Bingen. She was a Benedictine nun in the 12th century, and she was a composer. She used the harp to accompany liturgical prayer. She was also a healer and physician who recommended treatments that are now advocated by holistic practitioners, including for music. So as a result, it's kind of interesting that her teachings, her music are becoming more popular. They're kind of having a renaissance. playlist was going along in this pattern until the age of reason, interestingly enough. Rene Descartes, who was best known for his, he's the one that said, "I think, therefore I am." And what is important in this context about what he did was he promoted and made popular the concept of dualism, wherein the body was separated from the mind and the spirit. So the healthcare models started to go along looking at the body as a machine, separate from its soul, separate from its emotions. And Western medical model kind of did take off on that course. And it is now coming back, and I think we're all happy about that. Well, I'm certainly happy about it. Now I'd like to share some of my stories and inspiration. Even like as a teenager, practicing harp and such, the dog would always lay right at the bottom of the harp. Sometimes I had to get him to move before I could put it down, as a matter of fact. And I like to play outside. So I noticed sometimes it seemed like, birds were kind of hanging around, or that little rabbit would just linger a little longer than usual. And I thought, gee, there's something going on here. But what really was my turning point and my awakening with this regard was playing for my dad, Herb. And I know a number of you here know him, and so that makes it fun for me to tell this story. Although I tell this story because it's such a good story. Maybe you've heard it before, but just go along. He was in St. John's, kind of in the end stages, rather advanced, Parkinson's and its dementia. And he was not able to walk anymore. He wasn't speaking very much at all. But it was his birthday, so we went to the solarium to have a little birthday party. And my father-in-law, Howard Christensen, was there also. He was in the memory care unit. And so, of course, Howard was invited in the Christensen side of the family. And I was playing harp and just, some hymns and things. And I started to play Jesus Loves Me. And lo and behold, Herb started to sing. He sang in tune, pretty much, and he knew the words. He remembered the words. He was doing it all right. And then Howard joined in, and Howard was singing just beautifully right along with him, and everybody else went dead silent, except I kept playing. And we were just like, wow, what kind of a miracle is this, that we have him back for a moment or two. And of course, it isn't a miracle. There's science behind it, how music accesses our brains. But it was my turning point and where I decided, well, I need to know more about this and I need to do this. So I researched some programs. I ended up signing up for the International Heart Therapy Program out of San Diego, California. It was a wonderful decision. I'm still involved with that organization. I've made friends around the world. I've even actually got to go teach in Italy, which was kind of fun. 3 times this organization has been to elderly, including this last April, where we've done advanced training, and it's a wonderful program. The rewards are fantastic. So at that point in time, that was back in, I believe, 2007 when I did this study. There were 4 programs then accredited through an organization that accredits the training programs. They aren't just made up programs. They do have rules, structure, curriculum that's approved and that sort of thing. So anyway, so how does music provide comfort or healing? Well, first of all, relaxation relaxation, and I can attest to this is just so, it's so easy to help people relax by playing the harp for them. Oftentimes people say, well, I'm afraid I'm gonna fall asleep. And I say, that's fine, then I've done my job if you fall asleep. However, if you start snoring, I might have distraction. Boredom or anxiety, if you're sitting waiting for a medical test, or you're just in your room and never have a visitor, it's kind of nice to have distraction. And in that regard, it is therapeutic. Entrainment refers to that matching of the pulse. If you've got like the stronger, like playing, well, let me just go back a step. First of all, if you go into a room and a person you're gonna play for is like this, and they're tight and tense, you're not gonna wanna play slow, lovely music. You're gonna want to meet them right where they are with a fast pace. And then as they meet with you, you kind of can, the breath starts to get a little deeper, and then maybe you shift into like a more of a lullaby kind of thing. And I've seen from my own experience the changes in a person, face gray and ashen, and then as the muscles relax, the color comes back, and the breathing gets deeper, and they feel peace. And that's just a beautiful thing. Resonance is that thing where when the frequencies match, the energy is multiplied. And the example that we all can relate to, I think, is when the soprano sings that high A and they've got a crystal goblet and it goes because it's at the same frequency. It just starts vibrating and the extra energy. And this happens in the body too. You can add energy to a system through resonance. Memory recall, of course, let's see. That's a huge part of therapeutic music. And it's not just therapeutic music. You can do that by playing somebody's favorite tunes. And I would think about this. If you've got a loved one in the care center, who's their favorite artist? What are some of the songs they like? So that when people come and interact with them, they can connect on something like that. If any of you have seen the movie Alive Inside, they brought people back from deep, far away, lost in their minds, by playing familiar music by the original recordings, that these people come right back to the surface and speaking again and such. It's just amazing what can be accomplished. And then finally, the therapeutic musician shares sacred space with another using a universal language. Music, one of the things I love about it is that you don't have to tell somebody anything. You just share some emotion. Usually, music has an emotional component. And just being there with someone. I like to say that, we all say, if you share your joy, it's doubled. But what I also believe is if you share your grief, it's halved. It's coming out. So, anyway, people of all ages and circumstances can benefit from therapeutic harp music. We've got care centers, special needs, youth, the elderly, those nearing the end of life. Hospice is a particularly beneficial place I have found for playing. The sounds of the harp do comfort and provide soothing music to the patient who may be in pain or certainly experiencing anxiety about the approaching transition to the everlasting life. Families also benefit from the reprieve and calming influence of the therapeutic harp music. And as we talked about before, people who suffer from dementia or memory loss, music is very powerful. Just one quick story, because I think it's such a good one. It was my very first day as an intern in San Diego, at the San Diego Hospice. And I was working with a mentor. We walk into a room, it's a Sunday afternoon. She's in bed watching TV, she's the patient. Her husband is reading the Sunday paper on the couch. And they were polite and, listened as we played a couple songs. And then I got brave. I said, is there any particular song you'd like to hear? And she said, I want Laura's theme from Dr. Zhivago. It's not exactly an easy one to play off, but we got it kind of figured out. And as we were doing that, her husband walked over to her and he took her hand in his hands, looked into her face, and he sang Somewhere My Love. And he sang the whole thing. And when it got done, it was like the world opened up. She was talking about back in the 40s, they were in Paris, and this beautiful gown that she had, and the dancing at this special ball that they got invited to, and he was a fighter pilot, and we heard all these stories, and it was, they were just delightful, and we had such a nice time visiting with them. Later in the afternoon, one of the nurses says, oh, thanks for what you did in there. Oh gosh, we enjoyed it so much, it was wonderful, we did. She said, no, you don't understand. She has dementia. And she was really mean to him earlier in the day, and he had just had enough. So they're in the same room, but he's reading the newspaper, and she's watching TV. They're not together, but the music brought them back together at one of the best times of their lives, and they were able to relive that. That's just one of my favorite stories out of Memory Recall. Because there's a number of us here who are involved with the Lake Zone Forest, I just want to make sure everybody knows what that is. Such a wonderful thing. We've done one session, there's another one already in the planning. The concept is you take a person with dementia, their caregiver, and regular, public member. And so it's a third, and we sing together. And the stories that were told from the participants, a woman who's, I'm gonna guess, early 60s, and her husband has succumbed to severe dementia. And she was telling her story at the concert about how it used to be, they can't talk anymore. They used to do this, they used to do that, now there's nothing. But when they went to choir practice, he was singing, and they were interacting again. It's a gift, and it was a wonderful gift. So anyway, be sure to come and either sign up and join, or come to the concert this fall. Where does a therapeutic musician work? Well, primarily hospital and hospice. We're qualified to do bedside work. Care centers, memory care is big. Some people do infusion therapy, dialysis centers. There's harpists that play in birthing centers and neonatal. Yoga studios, meditation centers is another area where people are exploring the work. And animal shelters and sanctuaries. I love playing for the animals. I've had some absolutely beautiful encounters with those precious souls. Vibroacoustic therapeutic music. This is my home studio. I also am finishing up a certification for this. It's described as therapeutic music on steroids. You use a special chair or bed. I have a bed that has speakers embedded into it that are connected through an amp to the harp. It's not made loud. It translates that into the frequencies into vibrations. So your body, as you lay there, is getting these vibrations. And it's one of those things where I talk about that kind of coherence and kind of building that, the cells are all reacting to a certain frequency. My husband, who's I wouldn't call him a real believer in much of the alternative end of anything, but he loves it. He says it really helps his back pain. So as we get toward the end here, gosh, this time is going fast for me. I don't know if it's going fast for you, but one thing that we can do is kind of tie into that simple relaxation. Most of us spend our lives being way too stressed, running too fast, gotta do this, gotta do that, or, we're always busy. And by spending our time in the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight response, we elevate the heart rate, become fatigued, divert the body's resources from functions like immunity, metabolism, digestion, reproduction, because if you're being chased by a lion, your body doesn't care about any of that other stuff. It just wants to get you out of there and get you safe. The parasympathetic nervous system, also known as the rest and digestive, the way I always remember which one is which is I think of a parachute. A parachute brings you down safely. So the parasympathetic nervous system helps to lower our stress hormones, increases the dopamine and our other feel-good hormones, and it allows the body to take care of and repair itself. So our bodies are really marvelous things if we get out of the way and let them do what they can do. So, connecting to the parasympathetic, and this is what we can all do anytime at home. First of all, reduce the noise. Turn off the TV, the radio, the cell phone notifications. Breathe mindfully for a few breaths. Try to relax the body in sections. For me, it's always the shoulders are the worst, but maybe it's the jaw or whatever it is, just do a scan. And then I suggest listen to music that you select. Maybe, probably I would recommend instrumental music, because verbal cues will kind of take your mind to different places. But instrumental music, and the nice thing, most of us have a really hard time meditating. It's just like your mind starts to wander, and it's like, how long has it been now? Oh, it's only been 2 minutes. If you put on a 5-minute piece of music and know that when that's over, you'll have spent 5 beautiful minutes connecting with yourself. It could be in prayer, it could be in meditation, but you're just letting your body get out of that high stress response. The power of humming. Humming increases nitric oxide in our system. And why is that important? Well, it stimulates the vagus nerve and works as a vasodilator, which means it should lower our blood pressure. All sorts of good things come from music in our lives. So as I draw to a close here, I'm going to play one more piece of music for you. It's called Love's Lullaby. I made this arrangement a few years ago, in part because of my inspiration of the power of that simple song, Jesus Loves Me. And I want to close by saying how grateful I am that I had the opportunity to be with you, and how grateful I am for the opportunity to do this work with the skills that God has lent me. anybody would like to ask questions? I don't know if we have time for a couple questions? Okay. Yeah.
You ever put on CDs?
You know, I don't, but because you asked, you get a CD.
Oh my
But it's not by me, it's by my teacher. Yes,
Two-part, how many strings and how often do you have to tune it?
you have to tune pretty much every time you play. And the different harps have different strings. I believe this one has, oh, I don't even know, 38 strings or so. And I've got such a collection of harps. You know, some people collect, what knickknacks or whatever. I collect harps. But I am in the downsizing mode now, so I only have 15. Okay, that was 2 parts, yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
So how much does like a harp like that cost?
Well, they're all fairly expensive in my opinion. A harp like this would run probably about $7,000. The big pedal harps are astronomical. I'm so fortunate that back in 1974, my mother bought me a big pedal harp, and I still have it, and I still play it. Yeah, you
You
had a.
take lessons for many years to learn how, and you develop calluses on your fingers.
Yes to both. I did take lessons for many years. I think I'd love to take lessons again because you always learn. And I think it's important to continue to invest in whatever you're doing.
Did you start as an adult or?
No, I was a kid.
You were?
Yeah.
You did callus.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
She answered some of my, what made you get interested in playing the harp, what drew you to it?
Well, I swear I was supposed to be a harp player because when I was a little girl, I would take the front off of our upright piano and lay on the floor and strum the strings. Oh, that is so wonderful. So then my family lived in Sioux Falls at the time. We had a harp program in the school district there. And I was musical, I was doing other things with band and the choir. So they asked me if I'd like to be a part of the program, and I said, oh, yes. So that was the beginning. Yeah. Okay. Oh,
How
yes.
do you transport that? Can you carry that in your car or? Oh,
This is a carbon fiber harp. It only weighs about 5 pounds.
Oh, my
So that is a wonderful thing. The older I get, the weaker I am, and the more I love my harp. My big harps I use a cart.
Can you play one more?
I don't think so. I'm sorry. In respect to those that have places to go and things to do, but if anybody's got any other questions they want to, you can come. Okay, Joan.
Do you have a, case, or do you just take it?
Yeah. You want to protect your instruments always, so we all have cases. When I first started playing harp, I had a big fiberglass trunk that I used, and you know, here I am, a little high school student running around. I had to find people with a big station wagon, and sometimes the back window wouldn't close because it was too big. But now I don't use a hard case, I use a soft case and cushions.
When you play it, you play pretty much straight across in the middle. You play on the top or the bottom.
Well, interestingly enough, like different styles of harp playing play in different places, like the Paraguayan style, they play upward with fingernails, and they'll be playing up here. Now you may have noticed I did some notes down here. It makes a different tonal quality. So
Notice the red strings in the different octaves.
those, yeah, and it's basically, it's just so you know where you are. The red ones are C's, the blue ones are F, and it's kind of like if pianos didn't have the black keys, you would never know which one was which.
As far as your therapeutic use of your heart
Mhm.
rate, are you, actively employed doing that?
I am not.
But now you're setting up, getting your certification to do it in your home, so you will,
Yeah, more likely than not, when I complete that certification, I will be, doing that for pay. I've never charged for the therapeutic music. To me, it's my gift. But that would be a different sort of a,
and do hospice, do they approach you, every so often to work with people?
no, hospice has not, although I think if I opened a channel there, that would be okay. We could do that. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you folks all so much for being here. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.